Hey guys, I wanted to replace the double D ring system in my helmet with a quick release ratchet style strap. I have this in a couple of my helmets and I really like it. It's very convenient. You can do it with one hand, you can do it with gloves on. I like the quick adjustability of it. That's all great. Most American helmets come with a double D ring that we're all familiar with. A lot of European helmets come with a ratchet strap. So I looked around and I found a pretty cheap ratchet strap on Amazon. And yeah, I mean, they're like $9. So, and you get three of them. So, how good could they be? I was pretty skeptical. As you see here, one of the reviewers showed that they are identical to his Schubert style helmet. And they do look a lot like the Schubert style ratchet strap. But they are made out of a metal casing with a nylon ratchet and pawl, and I was fairly skeptical as to how strong these would be. And before I sewed them into my helmet, you do have to sew these. They don't quick release on. They don't have a tab. It's a narrower buckle than your standard D-ring, but I'm comfortable sewing stuff like that. I wanted to give them a try and just do a little load testing and shock testing. So I started with a double D ring, just a standard helmet mount, and I made a little rig to test this. I dropped an 11.3 kilogram, also known as 25-pound weight, from a height of 1 meter. And the double D ring does just fine, as you can see. It didn't even slip through. I expected perhaps that the D-ring would allow the strap to slip through a bit, but there was no change in strap length after the drop. So I sewed up a strap with the quick release buckle, same way I would install it in my helmet, mounted on a smaller strap that would be then sewn to the strapping in the helmet. And I repeated the test. And as you can see, it failed spectacularly. Now, what failed was surprising to me. Since there are nylon or plastic, I'm not quite sure the composition, parts in this buckle, I expected those to fail. I expected the ratchet to pull through or break teeth off or just snap in half. But what actually happened was the pin, the metal pin that holds the red ratchet pawl on through the body, pulled through. And it's a fairly thin, cheap pin. So that was surprising that the metal part of the ratchet failed, not the plastic or nylon part. The teeth were undamaged, both on the red, latch pawl and also the inserting tab that has the ratchet teeth on it. They had no damage whatsoever. So now, mind you, it has failed. I would be very skeptical about putting this in my helmet. But since I have three of them, I was curious what would happen if I replaced the pin with a harder steel pin, which I did, and peened it over, and reassembled the ratchet, and decided to give it another try. And it failed again. This time, the pin held just fine. The pin was undamaged, it wasn't bent, the ratchet still functioned properly, but the tab pulled straight through. It didn't have any damage to it. It didn't break the teeth on the ratchet or on the pawl. It just stripped through. I put it back together, pulled on it. It felt solid. Tried dropping it from a half meter and complete failure. Same thing. It just pulled through. So my thoughts on this are a little complicated. One is I don't know if the buckle is the weakest link in this system. The D buckle, the double D ring, obviously is very strong. It passed the test with no problem. I repeated it a couple times. It did not come through. It was fine. The strapping itself is very strong. Nylon webbing like that will hold 500 or 600 pounds easily. But the rivets that hold your strapping into your helmet are pretty small. They are very similar to the rivets that are in the buckle. They are, a thin pressed metal rivet that goes through a fairly thin helmet. And I wouldn't be surprised if they are designed to fail at a certain amount of impact pressure, because you don't want a completely unyielding system. If the helmet were to get hit that hard where it's going to try to come off your head, something should break before your head does, is my thought. I don't know what the specs are. I don't know if there's a DOT standard or a Snell standard or a CE standard for how much force it should take to break a chin strap. I know that the D-ring isn't going to break, the strap isn't going to break. So they have probably engineered in a failure point into those pins, because that's something they can control very easily. And I would imagine that those pins that hold the strap into your helmet would fail long before the strap or the D-rings fail. The question is, would they fail before this ratchet strap fails? I don't know. And I'm not going to test one of my helmets to destruction to find out. But yeah, if you were considering buying this kind of ratchet strap and you were curious as to how strong they are, hopefully this video gives you an idea. They're not nearly as strong as the D-rings. I don't know if they're strong enough. I think I will probably not be installing this strap in my helmet. I will see if I can find a better made strap, possibly one that has all metal construction. If I do find something like that, I will test it in the same way, and we'll see. Like I said, I expected the plastic to fail, and it did not. First the pin failed, and then the ratchet just pulled through. And I hope this helps out.